Another random live today. Gonna talk about tonguing. You know, that thing you learned if you did take band in school where you make the instrument go ta ta ta. You know, you get a little extra accent um with on your playing with your tongue. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can answer some stuff, comments over here on this page. Let me see if I got myself where I can answer over here if I see comments on my right. So feel free to ask questions. I'm gonna cover this topic, but I'm also open to anything else, y'all. Also open. All right, so let's get right to it because no one knew I was going live. So I don't want to waste a whole lot of time being that I did not let anybody know when I was going live. Hey, I see I got one person that just hopped on. What's up? What's up on this Saturday morning over here for me? Feel free to ask questions, but I'm going to talk about tonguing to start things off, but feel free to ask any other questions relating to saxophone, smooth jazz, and gospel. So anyway, I hope you can hear me good. Let me know if you can't hear me good. I'm not using any extra of my equipment for better, microphone and stuff and hearing and all that. I'm using none of that. I'm going straight through the phone because I just want to kind of get this in and try to go live at least once a week until I start actually letting y'all know when I'm going live. So here's what the deal is. So tonguing, how can you use it to add some spice to your playing? Well, one thing I want to say right off the bat is sometimes over tonguing takes away spice from your playing. So, what if you had to play something like this? I try to play it like a beginner band student. Mary Had a Little Lamb. You know how we were in school. If you did take band in school, they would tell you to tongue everything like ta 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 ta. Well, you playing smooth jazz and gospel, you can tongue, but I would rather use tonguing as a way to articulate or add accent to something, to add a little oomph to it at the time when I want it, and to play most of my notes with a more slurred tone. A slurred tone is where you don't use your tongue and you kind of go like this. Have you heard beginner band students or beginners kind of sound like that when they would use slurring versus tonguing the whole time? So for you other two who just joined in, glad you joined us. Feel free to use the chat to ask some questions, even if it's pertaining to this subject or not. But I just showed the difference of playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, tonguing, Mary Had a Little Lamb, slurred. Well, wouldn't it be better to play Mary Had a Little Lamb to make it sound more like a singer if you used both? So again, tongued, slurred. Now, right off the bat, one thing that I could use to add some spice to my playing with Mary Had a Little Lamb is I could slur because the slurring made it sound like a singer. Mary had a little, instead of Mary had a, that makes it spicier already. But then when you get to that little lamb, if you slur little lamb, it sounds like lamb instead of little lamb. The tonguing will allow you to speak it better. So here's the combination of the tonguing and the slur. That spiced it up a little bit. Now, you might have heard already I added some vibrato. If you look at any of my courses, you'll see that that I use vibrato as a vibrato. Sometimes I say vibrato. I'm a little country. I use that to add a little more spice to the playing because singers use vibrato. That ah. And remember, we talked about how if you lower your bottom jaw, you flat the pitch, and as you bring it back up, you get back to the pitch. So vibrato. So I'm going I'm not sure who's that. He says if I say the name Curitis Zach, will there be subtitles in the stream? Brother, I don't think so. I'm still new to this. I haven't done this much. That's why I'm going random when I go live. But that may be something that I'll look into to see about Baby, put in some subtitles on things so people can find parts of the live quicker. I'm just new to the game, man. So forgive me for being a little green in this. Um, so yeah. Now, Mary Had a Little Lamb, if you add slurring, you add tonguing and vibrato, you get something way more spicier. Now I'm gonna try to play it so plain. I try to play it real plain so you can hear what I was saying. So if I was playing and if I had a smooth jazz track or a gospel track, I probably would go. I would slur a lot, so I wouldn't be using a whole bunch of vibrato all the time. I would tongue those things that I want to have a little bit of an accent, and then I would add vibrato every place that I felt like a singer would put vibrato, or how would I sing it. I would not use vibrato for the whole thing, like that's a little bit too much. So for those of you out there who are familiar with organ playing, like Hammond B3, they have a thing called a Leslie, and that's kind of like their vibrato. They turn the Leslie on and off at certain times to get that extra vibrato when they need it. As saxophonists, I think we should do the same thing. Turn it on when you need it. So if you use that, you're spicing up your playing with very small things. Now, if you go back to my chorus 1, my chorus 2, I think I covered vibrato. I covered probably tongue up. I might assume you knew how to tongue. I cover a lot of these simple things that you have to have in your foundation. So when I'm giving you extra things like this, you know how to pull those things into your playing. So go back to those courses if you haven't been to it yet. All right, now I don't know if you noticed, still with this Mary Had a Little Lamb statement here. Did you notice that I added a little emphasis on that first Mary Had a Little Lamb when I was just not thinking about playing and playing? What I did was what we call a scoop, which is also in my courses. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back. But a scoop is what the vibrato is made of. It's where you lower your jaw and it flattens the pitch. And as you bring your jaw back up, it brings you back to the pitch. And doing that over and over again at the right tempo gives you vibrato. So sometimes I will scoop into a note to start off like Mary had, instead of Mary had, Mary. Try that. Makes me want to make funny noises. Mary. But still, even though I'm playing with a playful voice, that extra effect is what you could do on sax sometime. I'm going to overdo it right now, though. Sometimes you hear people do stuff like that in solos, and you're like, how did they do that? If they went like, that is that scoop. Right into some vibrato. That's that stuff. That's that spice. That's that sauce that you can add to your playing. And if you can't do simple vibrato, if you can't do simple tonguing, if you can't stop doing vibrato and slur your notes and sing with regular tones, then you're gonna have problems doing this kind of stuff. So you have to practice your long tones. You have to practice holding the note out and try not to let it waver so you can get a good solid tone. See, mine is wavering some, but every time I hear waver, I pull it back up, pull it back up. It's a good exercise. I don't do them as often as I should, but that is the kind of exercises that you need along with that. Those vibrato exercises, just like I showed you in my courses, do them at different speeds. And then try to make it seem more, natural instead of not so rigid. All right, so now Let me give you another example before I play this track that I have over here, which is one of my songs called Closer Than I Realized. A lot of y'all been asking about my tracks and my courses, and originally I planned to sell these courses, and then I started putting them out, building the channel, giving y'all, some good content, some worthy content, and trying to introduce myself to you guys. So I will look into what I might do about these tracks to maybe possibly make them available or make it available for purchase, or, you know, to maybe even use it to maybe get some of you guys to join my email list or something. I don't know. I'm still working on that. So what I was about to say is these things make a lot of things you play get more sauce. So if I played this melody to this track that I made with straight tone, no, all slurring, it was sounding this. If I tongued it, I would get. Now, on that melody, tonguing gives me a little bit more of the rhythm that I want, because when I wrote this song, I heard in my head la da 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 da. So I tried to imitate what I heard in my head or what I would sing on my saxophone. So for this particular thing, it required more tonguing. But I would not suggest that you tongue every note, because it make you sound like you're reading music a lot in smooth jazz and gospel, and it make you sound like you are maybe a little more beginner because you just tonguing so much stuff. Use it as a tool. Some songs may require you to do it more, and so if you need to do it more, hey, do it. Let your ear be the guide. So let me show you the melody. I'm gonna play around right quick. Here's the melody. So, something I wrote, right? I told you how the melody came in my head. Now, I did add some extra things around it, but take away the tonguing, take away the slurring, take away the vibrato, there's no spice to it, to the playing. So you still could have a good saxophone tone, but you lose so much because you don't add these small things that gives you so much. It's the little things that make you better. Do we have any questions yet so far? I mean, I don't have to do a whole live on just tonguing and stuff like that, but I'm hoping you're getting the point. But if there's any questions on the floor, I got my iPad over here so I can see. If you have any other questions about anything, just let me know. But back to my point, tonguing at the right time, slurring and adding vibrato at the right time gives you more of that soul. So like, let me just play around this track without necessarily trying to play it. But I want to show you even with high notes. If you hit high notes without tonguing at times, sometimes your high note loses power. Sometimes that's what you want. But if that's not what you're looking for, if you're trying to climax, sometimes tonguing give you the extra abrasiveness that you might need. So let me try to give you a demonstration of that. Oh, not a good example. That was a good example. Did you hear all that tonguing? Ba, 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 ba. I gotta get him key, but ba, 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 da, da. If I'd have went, it can still work. But if you wanted to pop a little more, tonguing was good for that. Now, if it was a more soft moment, maybe I would decide to go. You can choose. But if you're looking for that extra pop, that extra spice, and you want it to be like, whoa, play that saxophone, there's times where you want to add a little tonguing to get that. So let me try that again. Now that I got an idea where I might go. I tried tonguing. Sometimes when you think about stuff, you mess up more thinking about trying to do your example than doing it. So I'm gonna add a little tonguing to that high note this time. Again, and see if I can add ways to make you see how that tonguing can add a little more to it. I better stick with my example because I'm having a hard time tonguing certain notes. So that leads me to another point. That was a good example. Like, I'm not embarrassed, like, ooh, I messed up. When you're teaching, you're just showing stuff, and I'm experimenting even while I'm showing you stuff. So I'm not embarrassed about that. But what I am, like, I see a good teachable point right here is you still have to leave room for your heart and soul when you play. You have to leave room for what you feel is right at the time. And sometimes overthinking can be your worst enemy. You can even have a bad idea, which I felt like I had a bad idea at first, but then I just kept playing and kept trying to feel. And then I found that then I found that gold. You got to be open to experiment and let what's inside of you come out and not be so afraid of messing up. You have to mess up to get good, y'all. I'm gonna say it again. Look at the camera real close. You have to mess up to get good. It's okay. That's what practice is for. And sometimes in performances, you may mess up, but it's a part of the journey. How can you make it better? What can you do? What can you do to make it better? How can you come out of that mistake? I try to hit some wrong notes, but sometimes you're like Victor Wooten says, you're a half step away from a good idea. A half step away from a wrong note being something that could become right. So you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to make those mistakes. We all make them. We all made them, and we all are making them as we try to get better. People who are very complacent and happy where they are, they don't make a lot of mistakes because they just do the same things all over again. But if you're pushing the limits, then things are different. All right, so my melody, I talked about how I tongued it stuff. Now, some of my other lessons that I went live, I showed y'all about some of those grace notes, adding some more spice, tonguing, slurring, uh, vibrato, but adding those grace notes. That kind of stuff. Those grace notes. I think I told y'all in one of my lessons, you can find one of those grace notes in between your first and second note. Again, your first note, which is, we're the key of C. So my first note is C. So my second note is D. So that means I can go. I can start on my second note, go up a half step to that E flat, so I'm going D to E flat, back down to D to C. That's one of those places you can find it. So between the half step between let me see. I better explain this way. Second note, half step, and you can resolve on the one. That's one thing I gave y'all before. You can, in the key of C, you can trill very easy between E to F. Da, starting on E, go up to F, back to E to D. did that in the melody some. Another thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you take the same thing that I did with the 2, go to the 6, which is A. You can slide up a half step to B flat, come back down, resolve on G. You get another trill. So you got. Knowing where those trills are can it help you add stuff to the melody. Now, here's my song again. I'm going to play around with my melody, and I'm going to throw some of those in there again, along with what I talked about, tonguing, slurring, and vibrato. And it's going to give a lot of this simple melody a lot of feeling. So, try to play around. I actually went outside of my melody of my song, and I just try to keep showing you those grace notes, that tonguing, the slurring, and then taking those grace notes and doing them in different octaves instead of going here. Taking it up an octave, but then I go down an octave. You know what I mean? So it goes a long way to adding some soul and some spice to what you're doing. I got a question. Hallelujah, we got a question. It said, this is from Gast. Any recommendations on mouthpieces for an intermediate player? Same question for an alto sax brand. For me, and I hope Jody Jazz one of these days recognizes it and endorses me. He'll give me something. For me, I have found that Jody Jazz mouthpieces are very competitive as far as being not the most expensive thing, but not the cheapest thing. And they offer a variety of sounds. Like there's not like you just gonna get one Jody Jazz tone for one Jody for a player. You'll be able to get a traditional jazz dark tone because they got mouthpieces that'll give you a darker tone. They have mouthpieces made for contemporary jazz, smooth jazz. They have mouthpieces made for more of a classical player. Like they got so many different things to offer. And every mouthpiece that I've gotten from him that's been different. I've had the hard rubber, I've had the Super Jet, like what I have now on the alto. You know, like I got the Super Jet because it projects, it's bright, and it's free flowing, and it has an even sound from the low notes to the high notes. I mean, I love it. But if you don't want something that's bright, you could easily go down to the HR star, which still gives you the same evenness. They don't project as much, but it still projects. And it has such a great tone, and it's free blowing. Like you don't feel like you're limited. Like you can just play how you want to play. And you know, I've done that. I had the Super Jet that's more for a contemporary style that will even help you more with the altissimo. I just love Jody Jazz mouthpieces. Are there other mouthpieces out there that are great? Yes. But two of them that I think that are great, I think you can't go wrong with the HR, the hard rubber, for whatever style you want to play. I think you can't go wrong with that. If you want a little bit more of a darker tone, they do have a darker series of that. It might not be called HR anymore. I forgot what they called it. If you want something a little more cut through, a little bit more brighter, Super Jet is great for alto, tenor as well. I play the HR on my soprano. I play the Super Jet on my alto, which I've had the HR on my alto, but then I heard somebody play this thing and I was like, I want that. I want that. and it works really well with my darker sounding Cannonball. If I if and I liked it also when I had a Super Action Series 3 Selmer Super Action 80 Series 3. When I had that, I really liked it too. On my tenor, I have a Berg Larson mouthpiece. Can't tell you exactly what the name was. When I bought the tenor used, it was in the case. And it was like, oh boy, this Berg Larson right here mouthpiece is awesome. So I had a SLR Technologies Pro that I was using, and I kind of got away from that because it gave me a fuller sound. So I kind of gave a friend of mine that one away. So again, your recommendations on mouthpiece for an intermediate player. I think even as an intermediate player, you just need something that's going to be free blowing, that's going to give you the opportunity to play evenly, and not have to fight against the mouthpiece. And I think Jody Jazz mouthpieces, whichever one you decide, I think you can't go wrong. Even the I think they got the DV. It's kind of, to me, kind of like the Theowani version of what they do. It's more expensive. That's why I said I'm gonna try the Super Jet. And when I had a chance to try the DV, I still liked the Super Jet a little more because it was a little, the DV was a little more darker. I did like some more of the cut through of this mouthpiece. So, hey man, if you like kind of what I'm doing, hey, you could do it with the HR or the Super Jet. I would say go either way. You're straight. All right. Do we have any more questions? Let me see. So, yeah. And one thing about the Super Jet too is it's no pushback with going high. Like it's easy to go. You know, stuff like that. I haven't practiced all week. I was kind of scared what was going to happen. Like I'm trying to brag on the mouthpiece and will I be able to hit these notes? I don't know. But I mean, you can go up to the altissimo like it ain't nothing. It's just, you know, it's cool. It's really cool. I had with the HR, altissimo was a little bit less easy, but still good for Jody Jazz when I had it, as far as I can remember. But I have to remember that altissimo also has to be practiced regularly. And sometimes you have issues when you just are not practicing it regularly, and you can't blame the mouthpiece for that. All right, we got any more questions? So I only see that the two that I saw so far. So yeah. So another thing that I did a second ago, some of y'all might find this interesting, so I'll just show it to you. I did this trill. Off of my E flat, like this. So E flat, E, G. So when you do it fast, you get this. And then what I did is I resolved it. So again, you got E flat, E, G, and then E flat, D. So I trilled as long as I wanted to trill. You might saw when I was playing it with the track. I trilled as long as I want to, and I did a little circle of breathing with it as well, so I could go longer. And then I resolved. So a lot of times, like I teach you in my courses, course 1, 2, 3, and 4 so far that are on this page. There's playlists to it. You can find it. I teach a lot of times about resolving ideas because ideas are simple to come up with because you can play a lot of things that you practice. But how do you land that plane? And if you can land the plane, you can make the whole thing sound great. So you might get into this and like, well, how did I come out of it? Coming back down to that one, that's our way out. So if you like that trill or that lick now that I made based off of the trill, then you should practice it slow and practice resolving it. Now, how would I use it again, like in a song? Let me see if I can not overthink it and add it to what I was playing. wait for me. Let me back the track back up so I can try it again in a way to show you how to use it. Let's see here. All right. So there's so many ways you can use that thing. You got to play from your soul. You got to be willing to take risk and try different things. But the key of it was resolving. You saw sometimes I did the other thing that I've been doing before. So you can do it as many times as you want. You can do it as slow as you want. But now, for some of you who may say, that's too fast. I can't get that. That's something I'm going to do when I'm 50, or if you're already 50, when I'm 100. So let me show you how you can do it slowly and still make it work. So you saw I did it slowly, but then I would build other ideas off of it. So these trills don't have to be things that just get a rise out of the audience. It can also be a thing you can use multiple times to create other ideas. So I could create another idea off of that. But yeah, if you was wondering how I did that, that's how I did it. That kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. We got any questions yet? I'm glad to see y'all hanging with me. Good to see y'all hanging with me. Don't feel free to say hi in the chat, even if you don't have a question, so I can give you a shout out, so I can get to know some of the folks that are listening. I see that we got Gaston, and I wish I could say this name, but I'm gonna say Mr. Zach because I can't say the first name. But it'd be nice to know who's up here, and maybe know you by name as I see you along the way. So I got Souls to Him says, aside from blues and pentatonic, what else should I learn to play smooth jazz? Okay, good question. Number one, the reason I start with blues and pentatonic is because from my experience when I was in church, I didn't have formal lessons. My brother was starting to teach me a little bit, but we were not reading a bunch of music. He was teaching me scales and things of that nature, but I wasn't getting a lot of other things. And for years in church, I was able to play a lot of songs by learning melody, learning how to enhance the melody with my major scale. And I was able to learn how to even enhance it more with my major pentatonic. And then, of course, some things, especially in gospel music, Christian music, everything is not gonna work with major sounds. Sometimes there's gonna be some bluesy things like in the morning when I rise in the morning, you start doing some they start getting bluesy. So I needed the minor pentatonic and the blues scale to help me when things would change. So I always give you a basis of that, because if you could do those things well, you could still play something tastefully. You could still have something to do. I'm now in my course 4. I got into the bebop scale. So you might want to check out course 4 to take a look at the bebop scale and my lessons on that and how you can use it. And I think also in course 4, I'm going to get into the harmonic minor scale. I'm trying to think, did I do anything else? I'm trying to think, did I add chromatics? And there's a lot of things you can add also in your playing that's just chromatic movements. Like, remember we did the chromatic scale when we was coming in school, or there's sometimes you can add chromatics in the middle of things that will work well. So I would say right now, to answer your question, yes, there's more things you can do. You can learn. Why would you not? Also, I think in one of my courses, I started going into using, did I get into chords or triads? Like, those things that you hear a lot of people play chord changes, like in jazz. So I'm going to be bringing some things down the pipe to enlighten you in some of those areas, but please don't let others make you think that if you play major scales, major pentatonics, and minor pentatonics, that, oh man, it's more to music than that. Why are you playing that mess? This is good foundation. To me, if you don't have these things and you have some of the other stuff, you don't have the keys to unlock the singer potential that's inside of you. And singers are normally doing a lot of this stuff. So that's why we spend a lot of time on that. But yes, there is more, my friend. There is more. YH says, I wish I knew how to say this. Hi, bro. I love your explanations and how I follow your playing always. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. I appreciate you following, and I'm definitely glad to be able to talk to you guys and spend time with you guys because I'm really enjoying this process. I really didn't. I thought it would be fun, but I didn't think it was going to be as fun as it's becoming to me. I'm really enjoying this. Loving it. Very soulful. I'm trying to bebop, but I'm a little slow at it. Yeah, I'm a little slow at bebop too, brother. So I'm learning to play things slow to keep up with my ideas and build from that place. So I think what you're doing is actually a good thing. Just like that trill I was showing, how can you get other ideas if every time you practice, you're going, you can't take your time and get it right and hear every note evenly. When I was learning stuff like that, I had to keep practicing it slow till I could get to the slow is the key. And so I'm even applying that myself now more, practicing things slow so I can get them right and move forward from there. Because if you got something right, you could always speed it up. But if it's slow, but is it fast and wrong? It's just fast and it's just wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Playing it slow. All right, we got any more people? Any more questions coming on the line? Thanks for the heart. Thanks for the heart. And if you don't have any questions, hey, at least say hi so I can get to know who, besides a number I see on the screen, who I'm talking to. And again, once again, glad to have you. If you're not familiar, for those of you coming on, I do have a Facebook page called Smooth Jazz Saxophone Lessons, and that's kind of where I'm keeping us kind of like a community to get to each other quicker. In the future, I hope to do some more things where I may go there exclusively at times and Facebook exclusively, or maybe I combine them. But it's cool to join with other folks at that place. You can't really do that on YouTube, but on Facebook, we can do that. We can communicate with other players and learn from each other. If you're not familiar, also, I have playlists of courses that are free on this channel. Course 1, more like a beginner. Course 2 is it's building from that place. But if you're not a beginner, but you're kind of like an intermediate beginner, that would be good for you. The 3rd course is more of an intermediate. And now I'm on the 4th course, which is a little bit more advanced. And the main thing I'm covering is how to make playing this stuff easy. Like, getting somewhere quick. We're not trying to impress. We're just trying to be able to make our saxophone sing and be able to express soulful ideas. And so not only am I showing you tricks of the trade, but I'm also showing you like how to get there way faster without feeling like it's going to take you years to do it. It's going to take work, but it's not always as complicated as others may make it out to be. It's like speaking a language. And I like to try to show you how to begin to speak. So I I hope you learned something today about how and when not to use tonguing. Of course, I always go back over vibrato. I always go back over grace notes and sometimes major scale, major pentatonic stuff. I like to always do that. We did talk about some high notes, but I'll leave you one more thing. Some of y'all saw me do in one of my last examples of that trill that I gave you. So go back if you missed it. You might want that trill. Yeah, that kind of stuff. It's in this live. You might want to go back and check it out. But I circle or breathe with it. And nobody asked me like the question of how do you circle or breathe? Man, my neighbor is like killing me right now with that boat. I hope y'all can't hear that. So I'm gonna get a little closer to the microphone right now. Oh my gosh, they have to go now. They're gonna make me quit. So circular breathing. One person who did a good job at teaching it is Walter Beasley. He actually even has a course on it. But I want to tell you kind of how, for me, I simplified it. Number one, I used a smaller mouthpiece, like for my soprano saxophone or my EWI when I play my EWI. I don't know if y'all familiar with that. The electric wind controller. It doesn't take a whole lot of air to push through it. So I would practice circular breathing on things like this and smaller mouthpieces because it made it easier to try to push that air through. So part of what happens with circular breathing is you're taking in air through your nose. And so you bring in air through your mouth like normal, but then you're kind of holding a lot of this air in your cheeks. So one thing I practiced early on was like might sound funny, but making those sounds when you're like a kid. Because these are the muscles you're going to use to keep the air coming out that's in your cheeks while you're taking air in your nose to put back in your back in this thing to keep it going in a circle. So it's like, so you're pushing air out, you're trapping it in your cheeks. So while that air is in your cheeks, you're pushing it out with those muscles while you're taking air in. So I don't know if you could catch it. Let me try it again a little closer. Maybe you can hear. So there were times I would even practice that movement while I was at work. I'd just be like, just trying to get used to keeping air coming out of my mouth, making fart noises, sorry, while bringing air through my nose, practicing that. And then I try to practice it more with the saxophone. I would try not even take air, just getting the air in my cheeks and pushing it. So you saw I was able to push the air that was trapped in my cheeks out. So once I was able to build from those things, then I started saying, okay, now I'm going to try to push that and take breaths from my nose. And it wasn't pretty. It was like that a lot of time. My eyes would get big. My wife would laugh at me all the time. She was like, don't do that on stage. Don't do that because that is too funny. One way you could practice it if you don't have a smaller mouthpiece, you don't have an EWI or something like that, you can get you a cup and a straw. And you can take the straw, do the pushing, make sure that the water is bubbling from your air, and practice getting the air in. To me, that was the foundation of just being able to begin to try to work on doing it. And then I would practice more of doing it on my saxophone so that I could do something like that. Let me go to a lower note. So I'm doing it, but then you have the other challenges of how can you make it less noticeable? Because a lot of times when I push that air, it get a little bit louder. Even when you hear KG do it for a lot of times, like it's not pretty sounding holding one note. That's why a lot of times people will trill or play longer lines so you can't hear the ugliness of what you're doing to make it appear that you're not breathing. So you have those exercises that you can do, and then work it from just getting that note to trying to move around. And one easy way to practice it is scales. Like this. I made it play the wrong note. But if you saw when I need to take a breath, I would take the breath, keep the scale running. And you can practice that really slow so that way you don't have to think about what am I going to play while I'm doing this. Scales. You can play scales for the longest or you learn them anyway. So you can practice doing that going up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then coming down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And then play the one of the next key. So you're practicing your scales actually faster because even though scales are simple, you should practice them regularly to make sure you don't get slack on the easy stuff because, oh, I got that. Sometimes that'll be the things that make you play worse because you don't practice simple things anymore. So, yeah, you're welcome, man, Emmanuel. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, yeah, you can practice it that way really, really, really easy. And you can spend most of your time thinking about the technique of what it's going to take to help you do something greater with this circular breathing. So again, circular breathing is greater. It's not just hold a note for a long time and make the crowd go crazy at an event. It can help you play ideas together. It can help you do trills longer than what you would have been doing. So I'm just gonna play something randomly and just try to keep circular breathing. Like, so say this was a solo, but I want it to sound more like a guitar player who's not taking breaths because they don't have to breathe. You know, maybe I could do something like that. I did a whole lot of thinking on that. Sorry, y'all. It wasn't that soulful because I was thinking, how am I going to keep something rolling without breathing? And so I could put the circle of breathing in to demonstrate the point. So if you're really soloing and you're really feeling something and you didn't want it to appear to breathe, you want to sound more like guitar line or keyboard player that's not breathing, this can be a tool to help enhance a solo in a different way. Or maybe you're playing something that requires you to not be able to breathe well. And hey, you could use circular breathing for that and, you know, make it a lot easier to do. All right, guys. It's almost 11 o'clock. My son has a basketball game. Two of my sons have basketball games today. So if you guys don't have any more questions, I think I'm gonna call it a day with that. And again, just thank you for coming on my live. Thank you for everyone who asked questions. Thank you for everyone who commented, said hello. Hello. Remember, like I said, I have these courses that you can check out to give you a lot of these basics that I've already given you for free on this channel. I already have them in playlists so far. 3 courses. I'm on the 4th course now. I'm releasing that weekly, you know, a new video about every week right now. And once I get this foundation laid of these courses, I'll probably start teaching songs and also, hey, let me know what you want me to teach on to help you. And that'll give me more ideas of videos that'll be helpful. Because once I set this foundation, then I need to be more interactive in how do you do this in a real setting. So yeah, I could definitely use your help. Don't forget, I got a Facebook channel. We can talk to each other a lot more on Smooth Jazz Saxophone Lessons on Facebook. All right, I have one more question. How do I improve on an even tone when I play? 2 things. And we talked about it a little bit on this video already. So you might want to go back if you hadn't been up here already. Number 1, long tones. Thank you. Sorry at work while checking on. Hey, it's all good. I'm just glad you got on, brother or sister. I don't know who you are. I see a YH. I'm so glad you came on. But yeah, long tones, because in the object of playing long tones, you're welcome, Hilbert, Gas Hilbert. The object of playing long tones is to play an even tone and not let it dip and waver. So the whole practice of is to try to do that. And when it goes to grab it. So it makes you focus on it. So for an even tone, I would say definitely practice. Yeah, bro. Got you, bro. Man up, you know what I'm saying? Yep. But But yeah, I think that would be good. Even tone when you play it. And then two, I think even tone when you're playing is not to overblow. Sometimes we make ourselves sound so kazoo-like because we just, it don't take all that. It don't take all that. Sometimes we feel we have to do that. We don't have a microphone and people beside us who we're playing with may be loud. That's one thing. But if you have a microphone and even if you can't hear yourself as well, stay conscious that I have to keep a good tone. And keeping a good tone is not overblowing. So those would be two things I would say to work on: long tones and not playing too loud. Work on playing not too soft, not too loud, somewhere in the middle, and keeping that good technique. Thanks, man. I'm hoping they do well. I might have to go out here and shoot some ball with them a little bit to get them ready for the game. But all right, I didn't see any more last minute questions come in, so I think I'm gonna call it a day. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see y'all around. Keep it smooth. Peace.